Hello, can you hear me right, Cash?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, cool. I'll just introduce us. So this is our second crypto recording for Bet Chat. My name's Duncan. Again, I'm still the crypto noob here, and I'm joined by Cash, who's our resident crypto expert. Hello, Cash.
Hi, you all right? How you doing?
Today we've got a couple of reader questions to talk about, and also Bitcoin because it's now at $57,000, I think, when I
Yeah,
last checked today.
yeah,
So it's gone up. I don't know, what was it the other day? Last time we spoke last week, it was at 40 or something, wasn't it? Or
yeah, and it's just continued going higher and higher.
yeah. So I guess my first question is like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, with crypto, the bull market always goes on for longer than you think,
Mm,
and with Bitcoin, the price always goes higher than you think. Just looking at the charts right now, it looks crazy. It looks like we've gone into it looks like a parabolic move. Really, it's just going straight up. It seems. I mean, when we hit 40,000 back in January, it fell 30%, corrected back down to 30, and then since then it's just gone. It's just blasted through higher and higher.
yeah. So when you say like in this bull market, like how long has the bull market been going on for? Because it it kind of started like sort of first part of last year, didn't it? Or
Yeah, so when the crypto markets crashed back in March of 2020, because of the coronavirus,
mm,
um, it's just been going higher and higher since then. Um,
but I think yeah, I think a lot of people kind of like
that's when
me.
people capitulated, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't catch on until sort of beginning of this year. So the markets had kind of already been in a bull market for a good what, like 7 months or something. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm kind of wondering. My question would be like, are we nearing the end of it, or or is there a lot more to go, kind of thing? And yeah, I know that's
Yeah, it's
and
it's
I,
a difficult question to answer, but
yeah,
you see, right now we're at 57,000, and we're hitting new all-time highs pretty much every day.
mm,
Just looking at the a couple indicators that I have on here, it seems that the next sort of resistance that we're coming to is around 61,000, 62,000. Obviously, depending on where you've drawn these lines, different people can have come to different like targets.
mm,
But it seems that the next 60,000, 61, 62. 60,000 is a nice round psychological number. That's where the next resistance seems to be.
yeah,
Um, and again, some people say that this bull market is going to continue all year, all the way until 2023, actually, which is quite crazy to think about if it does go that way.
mm. What's the reasoning behind that? Just because there's so much sort of big money coming into the market, or
Big money, yeah, institutions. I mean, I read an article which was explaining how the bigger Bitcoin gets, it's kind of interesting. The bigger Bitcoin gets, and the larger its market cap becomes, the more attractive it becomes for
mm,
like large scale institutional investors.
yeah,
Um, that's potentially why the markets are going higher and higher. And of course, if you know different institutions are now considering diversifying maybe a percent or two of their portfolios into Bitcoin. And if they were to do that, considering they deal with billions and billions, even a single percent would be enough to push this market much, much higher.
yeah, and it's already at that $1 trillion
Yeah,
market cap, which is
exactly.
massive. Yeah, and I one of the things that that's obviously been in the news a lot is like the amount of kind of government money that's being printed, and the idea that like businesses as well as like the average person are like looking for a place to put some money where it's not being devalued, basically. and
Yeah,
and yeah, so when you say companies might put like 1% or a bit of their overall portfolio into Bitcoin, it's kind of like a bit of a hedge, isn't it? Like just to have some exposure to
yeah,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, because of the coronavirus, governments are just printing money. Like central banks are just. I think in the UK we did how much? 300 billion, something like that.
Yeah, it's
And
huge. It was like record numbers, record amounts, I think it was
yeah, yeah, and of course that's just going to devalue the pound, the dollar. So I think it's definitely a good idea to put some money in Bitcoin. As you said, hedge your money against that sort of
mm.
thing.
Would you wait? if you're an average person, you're watching this and you haven't got in yet, would you wait for a dip, or like what would your approach be at this point?
See, it depends on the risk appetite of the individual. You see, if you're thinking to put some money in there and just forget it for a few years, I mean, you might as well, if you consider the fact that this could go much higher, and if you are just going to hold for the long term, then this price, even if it does fall maybe 30%, that 30% in the grand scheme of things is not going to be that significant, you know. Of course, again, if you are going to wait for a correction, then it could go higher and higher, and then you might FOMO in, and you know, at that point is when it might crash. Crash a bit, you know, a bit lower. But it's very difficult to answer that question, really. It depends on the person.
Yeah, and but you're kind of saying like you would take a long-term view with this stuff.
Yeah, take a long-term view, and maybe consider laddering down some buy orders. So maybe buy some today, but then divide your money into different amounts so that you can set buy orders. So if it was to drop, then you can get, you can buy in at a cheaper price. Alternatively, you could divide your money up and invest maybe a certain amount every week, regardless of what the price is. That way you can dollar cost average into it.
Yeah, just to say, like, dollar cost averaging, for anyone that doesn't know, just means you're getting the average price over a period of time by like investing a little bit of time rather than one chunk altogether.
Yeah.
So my other question about this is what's happening with altcoins and, you know, like DeFi cryptos. Like, are they following suit? Are they like going up with Bitcoin, or is it a kind of, you know, they kind of stay stationary while Bitcoin goes up and then it's their turn kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that's what happens. You see, when Bitcoin goes up, everyone what tends to happen is people, you know, traders, they sell their altcoins and they jump on basically the Bitcoin trends to ride that higher. When it gets to a point where they think Bitcoin's going to take a break, they jump back into alts. You know, and that causes altcoins to go higher and higher. And you got to remember the fact that, you know, as Bitcoin goes higher, that's going to bring up the USD value. Generally speaking, that would bring up the USD value of the altcoins as well, because many of them are priced in Bitcoin. So as Bitcoin goes up in value, so will the altcoins. You know, if they don't sell off. So what I'm trying to say is, so when Bitcoin goes up, alts may decrease in value. That's if their Bitcoin price goes down. It's a interesting concept. It might be a difficult concept to understand if you haven't begun actually investing in these.
I know what you mean, because we look at dollars, but like a lot, like you said, a lot of the altcoins are priced in Bitcoin, which just means like if the value of Bitcoin is going up, like the value of those alts inherently is going up with it. But at the same time, if you're talking about traders moving in and out of Bitcoin and altcoins, they're kind of like taking it in turns, aren't they? But like generally the whole market is kind of going up.
Generally speaking, I mean, the alt market is still going up as Bitcoin is going up, you know. It's just one of those ones where people may become greedy and, you know, they want to jump in Bitcoin when it's going up, and then when that stops, jump into altcoins. You know, it's very difficult to time the market. But if you are investing for the long term, you could simply just buy and hold and just see the market move, really.
Yeah, and that's how you approach it, isn't it?
Yeah. I definitely don't have time to trade all the time. I mean, if I see a trade that's screaming at me to jump in, then I will, of course. But I have a trading portfolio, and I also have a long-term portfolio, which I just buy and hold for the long term, regardless of what happens. Yeah,
that's really sensible. So, and I'm guessing like the larger percentage is in the buy and hold portfolio.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Okay, so let's go on to the reader questions we've got. We've only got 2 this week. The first one is from Kieran, and he said that he was talking to his friend about DeFi cryptos, and his friend mentioned Cardano, and he just wanted your opinion on it.
Okay, let me just bring up the charts and have a look.
So I should just say to people, like Cardano is a DeFi crypto that's kind of like a competitor to Ethereum. Would
Yeah,
that be right?
yeah. So Cardano is actually a very solid project. If I'm not mistaken, I believe one of the developers from Ethereum actually started it. So
Right.
yeah, so it is a solid project. I would definitely consider. This is something I would consider investing in. It's just that right now it's had a huge run up. I mean, we're back to pretty much its all time high, which is
Mm.
$1.40 at the chart that I'm looking at, and right now we're at $1.10. So you could perhaps argue that it could go up and revisit its all time high. And of course,
Mm.
right now, with the fact that Ethereum is quite congested, if you are wanting to make a transaction or send some Ethereum or from one wallet to another, you would have to pay quite a high
Mm.
amount in fees. And of course, Cardano has much lower fees at the moment, and it's more scalable than Ethereum is. And
Yeah,
that could potentially be the reason why it's rallied so much.
because because the fees for using things on Ethereum is really high, so that people could look at Cardano and say, like, the fees are much lower, I'll use that. But if I'm right, like the ecosystem on Cardano and the tech is a few years behind Ethereum, so it's kind of
So I would say Ethereum. I mean, they have huge upgrades coming up. So Ethereum is trying to solve a scalability issue, and with the scalability issue, once you improve that, then fees will go back to a few pennies or even a dollar.
mm,
But right now, of course, as it is congested and the scalability issues have not been fixed, that's the reason why we're paying up to $25 sometimes to make a
mm,
single transaction on Ethereum, and that's what's pushed people to these other platforms.
yeah. From what I read of Cardano, it seemed like one of their focuses as an organization or a business is trying to sort of move into like the unbanked kind of areas. Like in Africa, they've been doing a lot of trying to get a lot of projects up and going in Africa and other places where like people might not have access to just traditional banking. So kind of like the original promise of
Or
Bitcoin and
Bitcoin,
other
yeah.
crypto.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So like,
a lot of these projects are trying to do that. I mean,
right.
as we mentioned before, like nowadays you can buy, store, sell cryptocurrencies on your mobile device. So essentially, you could argue that any of these cryptocurrencies could be used for that purpose.
Yeah.
Perhaps one of the advantages that Cardano has is that it's the price of per coin is so low, so people
Yeah.
misunderstand. They think that maybe Cardano could turn into the next Bitcoin or next Ethereum and go up to $1,000 per coin. But it's just the
Mm.
fact that Cardano has a much higher supply.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's
so
really important,
if
actually.
you think about it, if Cardano was to ever hit maybe $1,000, I think that would the market cap would be higher than all the money in the world, sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. And that's just because the so with Bitcoin, there's only ever going to be 21 million
Yeah,
Bitcoins. It's like encoded into the
yeah,
protocol. But with Cardano, that number is far
yeah. I think
greater.
it's
But
in the
there's still,
billions, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. So that's one of the reasons why the price is lower. Yeah. Yeah. When you see people talking about how high the Cardano price can go, like on YouTube and stuff, it seems like, well, you see some people talking about $20, which is a lot higher than it's at now. I think it's less than a dollar, is it? Or is it higher than a dollar?
So right now it's $1, and there's the market cap is 34 billion.
Yeah.
So at $20, that would be around 600 billion. $700 billion market cap.
So getting on to and Bitcoin's at 1 trillion now. So yeah, it's just like keeping that stuff in
Yeah,
mind, like with your expectations
exactly,
about how much higher it can go in price.
exactly.
But yeah, I guess like you were saying, it's been on a run recently. But if you were convinced about the long term potential of it, then like you'd have, like even if you bought in now and it went down, if you're holding for a couple of years, it's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
that. project, and it is. I guess it is a few years behind Ethereum. So, but then it is. That means
Yeah,
it's
there are a
also.
lot of people who do not like Cardano because they're trying to compete with Ethereum, and one of the developers actually worked for Ethereum, so he started his own project, and for that reason, a lot of people who are massive fans of Ethereum don't really like the creator of Cardano. But that these are like infighting within the community that happens. I mean, if you believe in technology, that there's no one stopping you from investing in both. Investing in Ethereum and investing in Cardano.
And also, Polkadot's another project that was started by an Ethereum founder as well.
Yeah, Polkadot is very impressive. I do quite like Polkadot, especially with the partnerships they have coming up, and they currently have. There are huge crypto funds who have invested in Polkadot, and they do see this going much higher. Of course, this is not a coin recommendation. I'm just saying what I've heard people discuss. But Polkadot does seem quite exciting. Yeah,
that's interesting. Maybe we can talk about that more in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is from Ron, and it's a wallet question. He just asked. He said that he's got a little bit of Ethereum and Bitcoin in a blockchain.com wallet, and he just wondered what your thoughts were on that. I guess sort of, the safety of it. I think it's a custodial wallet, isn't it?
No, so if it's from blockchain.com, you actually control your money because you have access to the private keys.
Okay, right. So that means that like you're not reliant on the third party.
Exactly. And blockchain.com is actually one of the oldest, and if I'm not mistaken, one of the most popular wallet services out there. So I have no issues personally with blockchain.com wallets. Yeah, as long as you have access to your private keys and you back them up, writing it on a piece of paper, storing it away, then that's pretty secure.
Can I ask, is that like less secure than having a hardware wallet?
Yeah, I would say so. Yes. You see, with a hardware wallet, whenever you want to make a transaction, you have to enable it. You have to actually approve of this transaction we're using buttons on the actual hardware wallet.
Yeah.
Whereas with these online wallets, even though you have access to your private keys, once you make the transaction, it's gone through. Whereas with perhaps the hardware wallet, you need to be physically there to actually press it, and make the transaction.
So somebody would need to get your private key and also need to have the physical hardware wallet.
But again, with the private keys, you could also, even without the hardware device, you could also you can actually make the transaction with the private keys.
Yeah.
But again, with the hardware wallet, it shows you exactly. So, for example, when you want to make a transaction with an online wallet, okay, sometimes I've seen people say where the address that they're sending to, hijackers can change the address and change it into their own. Okay, whereas, so when you copy and paste an address that you want to send it to, hijackers can literally show that same address on your screen, but actually change it on the laptop or your computer, and then you will accidentally, unknowingly send money to a different wallet. Okay,
that's on an online wallet.
Yeah. Whereas on a hardware wallet, you actually physically see the address that you're sending to on the device. So there's no way a hacker can actually change that on the device.
Okay, so there's some extra layers of security.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Ron, who's got like a small amount of, he said a small, I don't know what amount, but he said a small amount of Ethereum and Bitcoin. It depends. Again, it's like people's risk tolerance and kind of that kind of thing, isn't it?
I mean, generally speaking, these blockchain wallets are secure. Any wallet where you own the private keys, they are secure. But we're going into like deep security when we're talking about, hijackers can change the address and modify this and that. Generally speaking, for the average user, I would say who doesn't have a significant amount of money in crypto, these wallets are sufficient.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe next week or soon we can talk about some of the like steps you take to sort of make sure everything's safe and secure. Because like I remember when I first started working with you, and you were talking about using different email accounts to sign up for new crypto projects and
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that, just to and like so that would probably be a good discussion to have.
yeah.
um okay, well, thank you for your time today. It's been a quick one, but do you have any, before we go, do you have like, do you think Bitcoin will hit 1 million by next week?
I
No.
wish, but unfortunately, I'm not. I'm not that optimistic.
Oh no, right. You think it could go down next week?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's on its way to the levels that we mentioned, 60, 61, 62, and then
Yeah.
we may have a correction, but we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, cheers, Cash, and thank you for
No
your
worries.
time.
Thank you. Take care.